The first topic we've got a few topics we plan on scratching the surface on. I guess if we want to dive into details, by all means, stop us at any time, interject, and we'll share with our information that we have readily available in our heads. I don't think we have much data in our heads right now, maybe a little, but yeah, so thank you for coming by. The first topic we're going to is vehicle acquisition and our processing, how we're acquiring those vehicles. So a common theme here, obviously we've been facing it, would be finding the labor force to drive our businesses moving forward. But commonly and hand in hand with that currently, and I'm guessing we're all facing it, obviously on the self-service and the full-service side, would be the acquisition of your inventory. And I wanted to start with, that's the foundation, at least in our minds, the driving force behind the self-service industry and facilities acquiring that vehicle. And what we're doing currently, what the outlook is at your locations and how you're maintaining that inventory level or acquisition process. So,
vehicle acquisition is something that I really enjoy. It's probably my favorite part of the business. We put a lot of effort into advertising to drive acquisitions from the public, and I think that helped us some when of course, everybody's been to the auctions, so everybody sees those prices. And so that definitely helped us when things got expensive, and we were already putting most of our effort into, increasing our public drive and decreasing our kind of auction purchases. So, we actually this past year implemented a call center for our locations, just to be more kind of streamlined versus having a buyer at every location. And we wanted to make sure that we were on the same page across the board, and also just be able to kind of see what our actual close rate is, and kind of be able to see what we were missing out on or losing. So, our policy is a vehicle doesn't leave your location if it's an owner delivery. Vehicle doesn't leave your location if we're not buying it without, talking to myself or David. And then, we want to take we spend a lot of money on advertising. So, by the time that customer gets there with that car, we've got money already invested in it. We want to try to make a deal happen. We don't want that customer to leave. And then same if, we are out doing a pickup and the customer has changed their mind or something comes up, they do not leave the site until they have, talked to myself or talked to David. And so yeah, we, even if it costs a little more, or sometimes it doesn't make sense, we've already got money invested in it at that point, and we want to go ahead and close the deal. So,
like everybody, we hit a few different sources for acquisitions. Auctions have been getting god-awful expensive lately, so we have been pursuing other avenues. We finally, about a year and a half ago, invested in an on-street buyer to go out and start hitting sources directly, used car lots, tow companies, things like that, people who wouldn't traditionally run an auction, and that's been very successful. We do a lot of advertising as well to get private cars. We don't quite have the close rate issues that you do. The only issue we've been having is paperwork, of course. Nobody seems to know what title ownership actually is. They usually think it's a receipt that the tax collector gave them rather than the title. But other than that, we've experienced a general decrease in volume. I guess everybody has over the last year or so, and so we do what everybody else does. We raised prices a little bit, tried to hunt out new sources, get an extra person on the phones to try and take more incoming calls. We increased some of our advertising, whether it was billboards, Google ads, Facebook promotions. And so we just try to hit every place we can. There's no cheap miracle place. It's just banging on doors and just getting them a few at a time, just about anywhere you can for the price that you can make money on.
And I would say also, you know, as far as volume goes, we've seen an increase in volume, and you know, and I think a lot of that goes to the advertising, like you're saying. We use Google a lot, and we do a lot of TV and some print ads, not very much, but you know, we want the phone call, we want the customer to call us, and we want to take advantage of it when they do.
One thing just to discuss as well as you guys are talking that I'm thinking about is the acquisition, getting that lead is what we're ultimately after. The towing and recovery. Have you guys been facing any issues with towing and recovery with the lack of trucks for the larger towing outfits? I know a couple that we deal with have countless trucks on order, and then the secondary issue with that is the labor force to put in these trucks. And are you changing your buying habits to try to bring more vehicles into your facilities rather than picking them up? You know, what problems do you see, and how are you solving those problems?
Oh, I never want to tow a vehicle in. We'll automatically offer the customer, at least the private customers, you know, $50, $75 to bring it in. Why not? I'm paying it for the tow. That'll leave the tow capacity free for other vehicles. So it's worth it in a heartbeat to give them a few more dollars to have them haul it down. We've experienced a shortfall in our towing capacity as well. We typically subbed out all of our towing, and it reached the point where it's not working for us anymore. I don't know if we're big enough, or it's just we want to, you know, see it as a loss center for us. So we've purchased 2 of our own tow trucks for the first time in 30 years, and we're starting to do our hauling ourselves now. We're not planning to eliminate everyone, but we need that capacity that we're not able to have anymore.
And I think, you know, I've kind of gone back and forth with this over a number of years. My philosophy, our thought process has changed. I want to pick the car up as soon as possible. My personal opinion is the longer that car sits and the longer we wait on that customer because when they say they're going to bring it in, it's like a 2-week process. And very, very seldom do they say, oh yeah, I'll bring it in, and then they show up the same day. And so, you know, I don't want to leave that car sitting, especially during these times. I want to try to get my driver out to pick it up as soon as possible. And then, you know, as far as I would prefer to outsource towing. You know, a couple of our markets, we just aren't able to get any good relationships with reliable vendors, and so I've you know, purchased. I think we've got 3 trucks of our own now, and you know, owning your own trucks are, you know, they're to me it's a headache, and you know, somebody's water meter's always getting run over, or somebody's fence is getting hit, or you know, but we've been fortunate with our staffing for our trucks, and so, you know, I feel like we're blessed in that area. We haven't had a whole lot of issues or concerns, but when it comes down to it, I would still rather pay somebody else to do it.
We're starting hourly. We do all the, you know, dispatching and scheduling, of course, so they're going to have to keep a schedule. We've been doing this for 30 years. We know what a reasonable amount of towing, you know, encompasses at this point. So no, we're going to be starting hourly. I can't rule out per car hauling, but at the moment, I'm not going to do that.
And we do basically a set rate for under 40 miles, a set rate over 40 miles, and then they also have an opportunity to earn a bonus based on negotiating.
A couple things I'll just ad-lib here with the Wilbert organization. Similar to Gary, we've had an on-road buyer now for over a year, and what that has done, granted we have 3 locations within an hour-and-a-half triangle, I call it, serving some large metropolitan areas in Western New York, but that has turbocharged our business as I am very stubborn, similar to what we just heard at the round table. Men love instructions and to be told what to do. So we have a very strong viewpoint at Wilbur to pull it to source our vehicles ourselves and not use third parties. So auctions, the only auctions I will go to are a impound auction that's, that municipality, but it's instrumental. It's been key to maintain our purchasing power throughout this COVID environment. And granted, it takes a lot to get that bus moving, but once you get it moving, it's hard to stop it. So, and then Gary, I don't know if you want to share comments. I mean, what led you to hiring that outside, sales individual, and the benefits you've seen from that? Is it sounds like it's a unique position in our industry. However, you hear it more commonly now.
We got lazy, and that's why we needed to do it. We started off about 20 years ago. My father used to be our outside salesperson. He would knock on doors left and right. We started buying from tow company auctions and salvage pools, and we were doing pretty good financially for a long time. Cars were cheap. We didn't have much competition, and so we let those avenues sort of atrophy. They weren't. We didn't need them. They were a lot more work. You're knocking on 10, 15 doors a day, getting 3, 4 cars if you're lucky. And it was just a lot of work, and we didn't think it was financially prudent for us to put that time into it. So we fell back on the comfort of auctions and their convenience to buy 20 cars a week. And eventually the competition came, the prices rose, and we had to realize that, we were being lazy and had to start working again.
And we actually have we call it a commercial car buyer, but he's a guy that's been with me for a long time, and that's his sole purpose, is just maintain our relationships. The biggest thing is now people are traveling so far to buy cars. I mean, you got people in Houston going all the way to Lake Charles to buy cars just because of the outrageous prices, and so it's important. And I've always believed, I never want to show up and try to lowball anybody and just get a complete steal. I want to be fair with people, and I want to take care of our vendors, so that they know that they can trust us, and they know that we're going to be fair with them. If the price goes up, I want to be fair with them and pay them a little more, and if the price goes down, then they know we're going to have a conversation that, it kind of goes both ways. And so that is been a valuable position, because kind of like Gary was saying, you start forgetting about them and nobody tends to them, and they end up doing something different with their vehicles. So
it's a hard position to fill. It takes it definitely takes someone with sort of a sales knack to it, because they're out there buying just like, if you were going to an auction in some sense, but it takes a lot of communication. You're trusting someone with the power, with your purse, with your checkbook, and you have to be comfortable with that. You put realistic goals, and there's going to be times when you tell him, don't go over $600, and he's going to go over $600, and if you agreed with what he got, great, and if not, you guys got to work it out where you can't chop off his head. You have to give that outside salesperson a degree of latitude to do his purchasing. If you don't put him out there. Just put a price on the front page of your website that you're buying cars for $150, and you don't need the guy at all.
Do you offer different pricing, or how do you price those commercial vehicles versus what we call our street vehicles? Are they the same pricing structure? Do you offer a simplified structure for those commercial vehicles?
So, realistically, we do end up paying them more than, I try to be somewhere in the middle of what we'd have to pay at auction versus where we're at with the public. But at the same point, everyone's a little different. Some, you have to be a little more aggressive with, and you hope to recoup some of that in better inventory. But at the same point, I really try to take care of people that basically sell everything to us, and it isn't a constant bidding process where you're bidding, and I value those relationships, and those are the ones that we really try to take care of.
Yeah, you will pay commercial more. Basically, you're buying more cars from them. It's a convenience source, so you're paying for that convenience to some extent. So they'll always get more, and sometimes, usually the dealers or tow companies, they'll have the paperwork done too. It's a little bit less of a hoop to jump through, so it's worth the price difference.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, I'm asking a question that I'm leading a little bit, but at Wilbert's we do the same thing. We offer a much higher, shouldn't say much higher, but a flat rate for cars and a flat rate for trucks, vans, SUVs. It's a very simplified structure that you can go into that business, explain to anyone in that organization, or hand them our pamphlet. Everything is black and white. The deductions are very straightforward, whereas on the street, if a converter's missing, which I think we're all battling that, never would happen. But where based at tonnage pricing, and if it's missing, it's going to be a variable with whatever we're determining however, on the commercial side of things for Wilbert's, it's black and white. It's not as aggressive as we typically would be on the street, but it's something that they can immediately know what they're going to be paid for those vehicles they have, and not have to call. So minimize, we'll say, the touch points for that customer just to get it into our hands. Send us the VIN, tell if it's complete or incomplete, and the tow will be dispatched. So speaking of tows, one thing I wanted to mention, something that came out of one of our tow vendors that seems so simple, and I'm guessing many of you most likely are already utilizing this, but similar, I think Lance, you said that you have your tow radiuses, and with your predetermined pricing, we did the same thing with 3 locations that overlap. We had to determine the line in the sand. And that line in the sand, we were just using a Google Maps application basically, and was quite literally a line on a map. It became a little convoluted at times because you would have vehicles very close to this line, and sometimes we had individuals based on our towing structure would push a vehicle into the lesser amount tow circle or radius, you'd call it. And in discussions with one of our tow vendors, he said, well, AAA uses zip codes. Why aren't you just using zip codes? I said, well, to be honest, didn't think of that. So a small little suggestion that changed the back end for us tremendously, and has now enabled us to integrate some pretty interesting technology on the back end, just to automate processes and kind of eliminate the human touch, we'll say, to quoting a vehicle, which at the end of the day, we're just trying to give the quote as fast as possible and as accurately as possible to as many people as possible as well. So,
yeah, that's funny. We actually have the same Google line in the sand for our tow vendors, so I can relate to it being right on the line and them questioning that. But yeah, and for us, it's funny. All our locations it's amazing to me still how much different things are by location, and so we used to do the zip codes, and one of our locations, some of the zip codes are substantial. I mean, they're it would mean the difference in a scaled tow if depending on what we were paying them, they didn't want to go and get it because it would be on the other side of the zip code, and so we kind of ran into the opposite side of that one.
We've run into the same thing. Some of the zip codes can be can vary by 10 to 15 miles. And so all of a sudden, oh, it's in this zip code, that's great. And then the driver calls us, this is over at way over the other end near the river. That's 15 extra miles besides our 30-mile loop. So he's like, I'll get it, but I'm not getting 10 cars today if I'm going to get it. So it's, so we ended up, for us, where it made sense to not only keep it geographically, but there's some conveniences. For example, two of our major tow companies are actually a distance from our site. So for them to pick up a vehicle that's an extra, 35 miles away, if we schedule it properly, is no big deal, because it's closer to them right now from when they start in the morning to get the vehicle. So in some cases, even geographics need massaging.
Yeah, that's for sure. And negotiating that with the third-party towing vendors, no matter which way you go, there's going to be some give and take.
Yeah, and I mean they're your allies. There may not be your employees, but they want to make money, and you need them to make money. So at best, try not to be adversarial. I talk to some guys, and they're like, "Yeah, the tow company's got me over over on this one," and I'm like, and he says it a lot, and I said, well, then either settle it or move on to a different company. But you got to have good relations. You don't want to do regular business with somebody that you're constantly at odds with.
They're an extension of your business and also the face of your business.
Yeah.
So working with someone and proactively, I'm staring at one of my general managers right now, and that's a constant communication barrier, we'll say, with our tow vendors that we work with and our staff internally as well.
Well, yeah, that's a complicated one. So we early on, we started using Zendesk, which is a CRM software, and David's got to know it really well, and has been able to do some pretty tricky stuff with it. And so, what's good about that is we realized that we were missing a bunch of calls that would call in, and they were waiting. And so it's helped us with our close rate, being able to track those calls, and it merges similar, same numbers if one person calls in multiple times. So it helps track that stuff also. But basically, if it is something that is going to be scheduled for pickup, it gets put in the folder for that location, and the managers on site will print it out from that folder and give it to the driver, and they kind of route the drivers from there.
Yeah, we just, even though we have vendors, we sort of do our dispatching ourselves, or at least, it's telephone. Okay, we have these cars in this area, get them dispatched out, and they'll get them. So actually, we wrote a custom program that just sorts by zip code, even though we don't use that for payment purposes, to match up pickups so that you get things in similar areas. Constantly, they are a source of vehicles for us. I can't deny it, and they're cheaper than auctions or even tow companies, traditional tow companies in a lot of ways. If I don't buy them, my competition's going to buy them. So I'm doing business with them right now. I'm not happy about it. I'm not proud about it, but it's the truth. We are having issues with them cutting converters. We got a lot of gypsy guys. All they'll do is cut the converters and flip the car. They don't even want the car. They could care less. They just want to sell the converter. And during the peak of the converter values, we were really having a hard time with it. As they've started to drop off lately, I had my outside car buyer say, find out what it takes to get the car with the converter. And I was finding, well, I don't know if we can talk too many prices, but they were getting paid significantly less than I get paid for a converter. So the margin to pick it up was worth paying a little bit extra to get the whole vehicle. So that's how I'm handling it for right now. Not happy with it. It's working. It's profitable. But yeah, I mean, I don't like them either. But they're going to be out there. Do I ignore them? If not, I have three other competitors in 30 miles that are going to take the cars for the same price. So.
And yeah, same here. I mean, we were fairly aggressively buying them, and then they started cutting converters off, bringing them in, and we pretty much just said, hey, we're not interested in. We were buying so much inventory at that point that it didn't make sense for us to buy cars that didn't have converters on it, and we just didn't need the extra inventory. And so we kind of put our foot down and just said, hey, sell them to us complete. So then what we ran into is they were bringing us all the crap ones, and so I realized, I know that this is not the only ones that you're getting. And so we pretty much cut off a lot of those relationships that we had with those guys, because they're, illegally operating, which frustrates me, beyond belief. Some of those guys are buying as many cars close to it as I am, and with little to no advertising. And that's just the ones that they're bringing me with titles. I mean, I know they're buying double that without. So it's just, you got to put your foot down, and it's hard to kind of suck up at times, but yeah.
We're moving on to efficiencies and safety. While that they definitely complement each other, at times they're also somewhat contradicting. We run some fast pace, that's the whole nature of the beast, with our self-service operations. And I guess real quick, you can give us your take and how you implement safety procedures at the high level within your organizations, and how that leads to efficiencies as well.
We've started to formalize things. Of course, you tell the guy, don't stand under a loader with a car on it, all the easy stuff. We supply them with PPE for free. We don't charge them. They get everything that we can give them to keep them safe. We've recently started to introduce SOP programs where we actually go ahead and detail out line by line what we expect, what we require, and for the most part, it's been pretty easy. They break it, and when they break it, I don't say I'm happy that they break it, but what I'll say is that it's clearly defined what was broken, so we can explain it to them so they can do better. You spend a lot of time and money to get an employee, get him trained, and get him profitable for you, and so you don't want to get rid of him just because he's breaking something or doing something wrong necessarily. But if you don't inform him, if he doesn't have the chance to correct it, that's your fault, not his. So definitely the SOPs to actually clearly define what you expect and where, if it fails, where it failed, so you can make adjustments, has been really helpful. We haven't had any significant accidents in probably over 10 or 11 years, so I'm very grateful for that. But it's presenting what you expect as far as safety. You have to make it clear. You have to make it enforced, and like I said, everyone makes mistakes. Give them the chance to correct it. Don't just start screaming at them. You idiot! You dropped that car off the lift. So why did he drop the car off the lift? Find out why, or if it was a mistake that he made, educate him so that you don't lose that employee over that one mistake.
So yeah, and same with the SOPs is something that we realize that if we want to continue to grow, that we've got to be more strategic. We've got to train our people better. We've always had a heavy requirement for safety. We require our staff to wear our PPE that we purchase. We don't let them bring gloves from home, stuff like that. If they're, I think listening to their concerns, if they have concerns with the glasses, or if they have concerns with the gloves, and trying to, work through those things. I mean, it's the gloves are a sensitive deal because, there's not a perfect glove out there that's you just got to find something that will work and make everybody happy.
The cheapest ones are never the right ones, honestly. You
they're
want
not.
them to be, you really do, but they're not.
And so, we recently brought on Eric. He is our director of operations now, and will start kind of leading some of the SOPs. And I'd started a while back doing a site evaluation. It's a comprehensive site checklist that anybody should be able to show up at my site anytime and kind of see what I'm looking for when I'm there. And it covers a lot of the safety stuff. It covers, one of my, makes me cringe every time I see it is to watch a guy carrying the super shear by the guillotine. that kind of stuff is super important to me. It's something that we preach, but at the same point, you know, we also realize that, hey, we bring a guy on, we stick him with the last guy who got stuck with the guy before him. And so just, you know, training is just an area that we've got to put a lot of emphasis on, and spend more time, even with our GMs, with our sales people, just everybody there. They deserve to be completely trained and not just put with some guy who learned, you know, from 2 or 3 others that do it all completely different. And so, yeah, same deal. Super important to us. And at the same point, it does create efficiency. I mean, you know, how many people in here can raise their hand and say that their tool carts on their drain racks are super organized? I mean, I've only seen a couple in my history, you know, that were actually organized, because you hire a new guy, he goes out there and, you know, within 3 days' time, they've got tools that they pulled out of vehicles, and I mean, it's just scattered all over the place. And so, you know, the guy's standing there, talking about efficiency, standing there for 10 minutes looking for one socket. And it happens. I mean, it literally happens. That's what it looks like. So
The socket's under the hood of the car he just processed.
that too, it ends up on the crush pad.
Yeah. At Wilbert's, we've definitely pushed forward quite a bit in our safety and compliance side. We hired a safety and compliance coordinator, which complemented. We have committees basically in every realm. We have 12 committees that report up to the board, but the committee, something that came out of the safety committee, was implementing a safety team that management was not allowed to be on at every site. There's a minimum, I believe it's 4 individuals on those safety teams. They meet once a month with that safety and compliance coordinator. That information is then filtered up the chain of command, and there's been some fun topics that have come out of those. It's a great time. One, you know, you can preach it all day long. Safety, 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 yes, but you have to practice it. And this is our motivation to practice what we're preaching to our staff. We have those SOPs and you can train consistently, but putting value into your staff, the buy-in ultimately is what we're all looking for. So it's a constant battle, at least for the self-service side. I mean, it's all numbers driven, process, and it's sensitive. However, the downtime, Wilbert's, I'm guessing most operations, exhaust pipes are number one. Cat shears, whether it's a cat shear, reciprocating saw, the vehicles, at least in New York State, we deal with this stuff called snow, and to get rid of it, you put salt down on the road. And what that does to the vehicles is no fun, but we have a lot of rust, and therefore exhaust pipes, starting now, probably November, you'll start seeing them on the side of the expressways and highways, and there's some unique fixes that individuals do to pass our wonderful New York State yearly safety inspection, but it's a concern. We've gone to our actually cut sleeves we've gotten rid of, and now we have puncture resistant sleeves for all of our processors. They're Kevlar. They were cumbersome at first, that they're a large investment. I think they're up to $50 each arm right now per sleeve, but they've mitigated quite a few injuries, as that is our number one, even on the full service side, basically injury that we're facing right now. So they're not going to like it at first, but we're here to protect our investment, our employee.
We use them as well, although summer in Florida, it's a little harder to sell.
I can only imagine. Yeah. We use them actually for insulation, sorry, but no. Well, moving on. The next topic, this one might take a little while as well, but we're slowly running out of time. The commodity recovery, and this is honestly perfect. Just talking, I know how Gary operates, and I know how Lance operates, and we have 2 different operations, drastically different on the what I call the end of life, or the final stages, the back end. So, Gary, I guess I'll let you start.
Okay, well, from our back end, just to give a real quick sort of idea of our flow, car comes out of the yard, we put it over by our excavator, we pull out the engine, transmission, radiator, heater core, condenser. We put it on a solid steel table. We have somebody extract off all the wiring that they can separately. Then we take the vehicle itself. We put everything that was drained on the way in. Then we crush out the vehicle, send that out. We put all our engines into containers, wire into containers, aluminum into containers, and send it out. And hopefully, we made money at the end of the day. But that's the quick thing. And we're recently new to the whole engine excavation process. We've been doing it for probably about 4 years now, and we're a 35-year-old business. People were telling us to do it for years, that it's make more money, and it seemed a lot of work, a lot of trouble. You needed extra footprint space to do it all, and they were all right. It does make it is profitable to do so. It's labor intensive, messy, and it's worth it.
Well, my process is a lot more extensive and more difficult. We take it right out of the yard and put it right into the crusher. So, you know, I guess early on, I mean, my history was, I worked for a private company before BYOT. I had the opportunity to work for corporate company, and so I've experienced, you know, all the above, and had a Scorpion attachment. You know, when we first opened, and that's always the hardest position in production, and at least for my facilities, it was always the hardest position to fill. No, especially during the summer in Texas, nobody wants to be out, you know, out in the sun, or, you know, wearing those sleeves, and you know, back then we were ripping dashes, and, you know, we were getting as much copper as we could and pulling engines, and then you got, you know, like 8 bins lined up and trying to sort it, and so, you know, my deal was, it didn't make sense why I went through all that trouble, you know, to get that stuff and sell it to this person who basically, in a lot of cases, would turn around and sell it to, you know, the MRE. And so I went to our shredder and just kind of said, hey, you know, this doesn't make any sense. Why not just pay me a premium, and you know, I'll send them to you complete, and then it doesn't take any more effort for them to sort it. And so, but that only works with certain shredders. I mean, there are some shredders that all they're interested in is rebar, but the other side of that is, you know, the wear and tear on equipment. I would rather position to be able to run more volume in cars and try to make up the difference on that end. And we just don't have the space. If we were buying the cars that we buy now, still doing that, we would have to really figure that out and how to make that work. So.
Not typically when we pull them. We get a fair number of cores back. We probably we fill like a container or so pretty frequently. But we're looking at that. The core prices seem to be coming back up to make it worth it. The margins were close before, and I mean we clean the wiring harnesses off, and right now that's just getting scrapped. We pull engine computers, chassis computers, and we turn those around. We store those, you know, accumulate those separately, but nothing on the order of smaller modules past brain boxes now. We do some limited exporting. I mean, obviously they take the engines, that cuts down on processing time and what you're going to get out of the vehicle. Exporting it's a fine thing sometimes. It depends on the volume of cars you're running through your yard. Can your yard support that without hurting your retail business too much, which is sort of your number one focus on your front end business? So it's always a precarious thing. We have a few. Could we have more? Yes, but we've tried that, and then we see our retail sales go down. So you got to decide, do you want an exporter who comes maybe 2 or 3 times a year, or do you want to, keep your 50 to 100 people a day coming through your yard happier? So. We have a few independent core buyers that we negotiate lower prices than our retail for some of it, but a lot of that market, it's definitely not as profitable as it used to be. Yeah, they'll give you all these sheets with nice calipers, but that $20 caliper is only off like the RS model Camaro. The plain one is worth $3. So we've gone through different core programs and things like that before, and for a U-Pullet, our average year range just really isn't the money that you want it to be for the labor that it takes. We have one of the containers is aluminum breakage, and so we'll throw stuff in there. Do we strip it off the vehicles at this time? No, we don't. Obviously, if we come across an aluminum frame or something, we're going to throw it in there, but we are not currently mining structural aluminum out of the bodies.
Any other questions? We'll get to our last one real quick, which is our key performance indicators. Well, we're going to call this our last one because we don't have time to get to the last one. But I think we all have our KPIs that we're looking at. They're maybe we call them a little bit differently within our organization, but we might be looking at some different ones perhaps. But what do you guys want to see? We'll start with maybe your purchasing and retail. What are you tracking? What do you look at every night?
Definitely number of cars per day purchased. Customer foot traffic coming through our facility, cars going out that have been processed that are stripped down. Those are I look at those every night. I'm trying to think what else. Most of the core things, since they're taken away in bulk containers, aren't a daily number for us. Converters we keep track of on a daily basis, how many we acquire during the course of the day. And those are probably our 5 or 6 key ones I look at on a nightly basis.
Okay. Yeah, and we I want to keep track of basically converters per car. For one, to make sure that our guys are removing them, they're not going out in the yard. As far as sales KPIs, average ticket is important, especially if you're, with the turnover that we seem to have now, and you got new salespeople out there. Your average ticket, percent of customers purchasing, one bad apple can cost you a lot of money, and so another reason that we're, really wanting to place more emphasis on proper training. Trying to think what else. Our returns and warranties, try to keep an eye on that. And then, of course, our gate and how many cars are coming in. So.
Yeah, I would, similar boat. We run a crush software, so we've got our automated reports that go out daily, weekly, monthly. But one thing that lacks a little bit on the crush aspect, as I was talking to some users before this, is the production side. And we've implemented our own software in the back end, basically, for tracking all that. And the cat removal, which I'm guessing we've all changed our practices in the past 2 years on what we were or were not removing and what we are removing currently. And that's a huge number, obviously, and it still is, I'm guessing in a few, within a year's time, we're going to be tracking it quite a bit more as well. But it's important. I know talking with Lance, the transactions or the lost leads, we'll call it, basically, the people walking through your doors and walking back out empty-handed. There's a lot to be said on that you can translate into how many vehicles you're setting in your yard per day, how the size of your yard. And at the end of the day, we are profitable because of the parts we are selling to those customers, and we have to sell parts. We're automotive recyclers. We have to sell a door as a door rather than 10 pounds of steel, and that differentiates us between that scrapper right down the road. So encouraging the retail sales is what we're here for, and so keeping track of those metrics. If you're not part pricing as well with the climate we're in and adjusting your part pricing, maybe more than just once a year perhaps, looking at it, quarterly or monthly, especially in the climate we're in right now, I would definitely encourage that. So,
I hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, don't miss out on our next conference and expo. We're going to have tons of amazing educational sessions, tech talks, networking with your peers, all of the vendors that you need to speak to take your business to the next level, and amazing amenities. Don't miss out.